What up, peeps? It's your super sketch artist, Antonio, and I am here with another movie review. This is going to be a spoiler free review of the latest Marvel Studios movie, which is none other than the Fantastic Four. Now, if you are a fan like I am, this shirt has Sue, and then we got Ben, and we got Johnny, and we got Reed, and we got my guy Doom. We even got Galactus. I've had this shirt for over 15 years now. Absolutely love the Fantastic Four. They are the first family in Marvel, and this movie catches you up quickly. This is the second comic book movie that I've seen this summer that automatically drops you in within the first 5 minutes. Here's the story. We're not gonna, this isn't an origin movie, even though this movie is called The First Steps. This is not an origin movie at all. This is, you know who these characters are. They fought some people that you probably know if you know anything about the Fantastic Four, and let's get the ball rolling because what their role is in the grand scale of the Marvel Universe is very important. So I liked that a lot. I liked that just like with the Superman movie that I just saw a few weeks ago, they drop you right in, let you know, hey, this is what they do, this is how they got here, this is what their role is on the planet, and action. I really liked all of the iterations of the Fantastic Four. I think they did well overall. I think, again, seeing how we've seen multiple Fantastic Fours, there's been three Fantastic Four movies, four if you count the one that did never came out, but three that actually made it to theaters already. And easily this is the best one, I think. And this is without having certain characters in throughout the movie. It's still better. Simply based on the fact that everyone plays the role that they generally play. And this is the thing about, again, say with the Superman movie, people are, they're kind of on both sides of the fence about how Superman and the other characters should act. When I see a comic book movie, I'm expecting, unless I know that they are delving directly into one specific storyline, I am expecting those characters to behave like they behave in the pages of the comic books that I've read 90% of the time. Unless you are doing a specific story. Again, say like with Superman, if they were doing the Injustice version of Superman, then I would actually expect more of a Henry Cavill type Superman. But if you're doing Superman how he is 98% of the time in comics, he's going to be that nice, bubbly, goofy, kind of corny, kind of big blue Boy Scout. And the Fantastic Four fill all of those roles. Reed is a constant thinker, and he is a person that is constantly looking at the equations of things and trying to break things down. Sue is that mother, that nurturer, that care, that person that is the heart of the team. Ben is the backbone. He is the rock, you know, figuratively and actually and actually he is the rock of the team. He's the person that is going to hold people down. And I love the relationship between him and Reed in this movie, him and Johnny in this movie, and him and Sue, the him with everyone, the interactions that everyone had with everyone else. I really enjoyed it. Of course, Johnny being Johnny, if you watch Stranger Things and you would know the actor who played him, you know what he can do in other roles that he's been in, and I think he played a great Johnny Storm. Again, the four when they're, especially when they're together, they weave so well, and it shows that they are a family, not just a team of people. This isn't the Justice League, this isn't the Avengers, this isn't the X-Men, this isn't the Thunderbolts. This is actually a family. And when you are actually family with someone, you are going to think, act, and speak differently. And they do all those things in such a freeing way with each other when you get to see them interact with each other, which is through most of the movie. Which again, I love that because this is Marvel's first family. So I love that that family aspect was front and center throughout the whole movie. There's not one, there's not one good span of time where you're like, all right, well, even when the characters are doing their own thing, it still links them back to the family unit in some kind of way. And I really, really like that. A lot of people were again on the fence and downright upset about the fact that the Silver Surfer was not Norrin Rad, but Shalabal. Um, if you didn't know that, where have you been living under a rock? It seems this is Shalabal. This is not Norrin Rad. This is not Norrin Rad. This is not Norrin Rad. I'm gonna tell you one more time. This is not Norrin Rad. Get over it. This is not the dimension that this is not the MCU dimension that we have watched for the last 15 or so years. This isn't that. What this is a different dimension because we've already seen a Reed Richards before in the Multiverse of Madness. I've already seen a different Reed. This wasn't even the first Reed that we got to see in the MCU. This is the second one with Pedro Pascal's Reed. This is the second one. So just know they're going to that whatever versions, even of versions of these characters, doesn't mean that this is the final version. Marvel this week just said that Kevin Feige said after they do Avengers Doomsday, they're going to do a hard reset on the MCU. That means they will recast all of your favorite characters. We will see a new Iron Man, and Captain America, Thor, etc., 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 etc. So just go into this knowing that the Silver Surfer, the depiction of the Silver Surfer needs to be who and what the Silver Surfer actually is supposed to represent, and that is a herald of Galactus. The Silver Surfer, does Shalabal do that in this movie? She does. She does it very well, too, as a matter of fact. Does she give a great representation of what it must be like to be the herald of someone who destroys planets and innocent people? She does. I absolutely love that aspect of it, and that's one of my favorite parts of the movie is the reaction, the emotion, because Silver Surfer is an emotional character, and he has to hide it very well because his master doesn't care about his emotions. He essentially signed a contract. He made a deal with the devil, which is Galactus in this sense, so that he could spare his planet. And if Shalabal did the same thing, she became the herald of Galactus to spare her planet. With that being the case, it comes a level of I have to cut off my emotions and do my job, just like we all do. We have to cut off all our emotions and do our job. And Shalabal does that. And I absolutely love that. They never call her, I don't think they ever called her the Silver Surfer. Slight spoiler. And they didn't have to because we know who the character is. The other big thing that I really was, I mean, big figuratively and just actually in the movie was Galactus. So big G, big G. Galactus's presence when he's on screen is massive. It reminds me of Unicron in the Transformers animated movie from when I was a child. And this is the first time we gotten to see Galactus on the big screen because the first time we saw Galactus, he was just like a smoky head. And I was so pumped to see what it would be. But what you have to remember is that Galactus can look like he looks differently to every planet he goes to. He looks differently. They say that, they've established that a long time ago. But this version of Galactus looks like the traditional version of Galactus that we've seen, more mechanized, and more, kind of again, more robotic looking, like they've been doing him in the last like what 15, 20 years probably. Whenever they do like a figure or a rendition of Galactus, he looks more machine than actual like person versus the original Jack Kirby design was just a guy with a big helmet on and some kind of armor on, but it looked, you could tell like there was pieces of his skin sticking out and everything like that. None of that here. It is just you see his face. That's the only piece of his skin that you're gonna see. Generally, when you see Galactus, you only seeing his face, and everything else is essentially part of his ship. And he was so massive, and I love that, and I love that the Fantastic Four didn't just instantly have they went away from the original first interaction that Galactus, Silver Surfer, and the Fantastic Four had. In the original comic, the Watcher intervenes. He shows Reed, or he shows Johnny where the Ultimate Nullifier is, and the Ultimate Nullifier can destroy, it can wipe you from existence. He shows it to Johnny. Johnny takes it to Reed, and Reed kind of says, "Hey, man, back up. I got this thing." And there was none of that in this movie, thank goodness. And I'm also very thankful that they could have done the Fantastic Four the way that they've done a bunch of superhero movies, even as recently as Superman, where you have them fighting an evil version of themselves. There is a group called the Frightful Four, because back in those days when they made comic books, they used the same letters for a whole bunch of things, like the sound of things. So Fantastic Four, the Frightful Four, Clark Kent, Peter Parker, Lois Lane, all those types of things. So um, I really, really, really enjoyed how Galactus and Shalabal and the Fantastic Four all interacted with each other. And another thing I really loved, and was a very important part of this movie, was the humans on Earth. The way that the public interacted with the Fantastic Four was a big part of the movie, because you really realize that these people are famous. They are famous. They got their cartoons, they got cereals, they got action figures, they got Halloween costumes. They have all the things that the average celebrity would have, or person would have, if they actually had superheroes. We would be worshiping these people, especially if they've saved us. And the interactions with the public are so great when you get to have them. And I even in the Superman movie, that's the one thing that his interaction with the public, with the people of Metropolis, is very interesting. And the Fantastic Four's individually, their interactions with the people of New York and the world, because the world loves them. The whole world loves the Fantastic Four and is willing to work with the Fantastic Four, except for one place, and I will give you no hints on what that place is. But it's one place that does not like they don't mess with the Fantastic Four, or Reed, or any of them. And I absolutely love that. I love, again, the little things that they've done to throw in the fact that this is Marvel's first family. This is a family. This is a family that is loved and known across the planet. And with the Fantastic Four says, "Hey, we're gonna do it," because they've done it so much, the people just back up and gives them their reverence. The same way in Superman, these people are kind of nonchalant to the danger because they're just used to Superman saving them. The Fantastic Four demand that respect and gravity when they're on screen with the public. And again, they demand that air of like, okay, well, these guys got it. And I absolutely love that. And again, you get to see all the different characters and how they interact with the public. It's such a really, really cool thing. um if there's maybe only one or two scenes in the movie that I don't necessarily like, and that I wouldn't necessarily, or that I would say that there's maybe two scenes in the movie that I already know that the average viewer, or someone who's hating on the movie, is automatically gonna not like. And I think now, at this point in time, when we start talking about the pacing of movies, the pacing in this was fast. The pacing was fast. The pacing was very fast, and I think as it should be. The pacing should be fast. Superhero movies are not new, regardless of who the main characters are. The aspect of superhero movies are not new. We know that these people have powers. We know they're going to fight a bad guy. It's going to be a big bad fight at the end. Okay, that's it. It's known, so just deal with it. It just trips me out that people are still like, the pacing was just so fast. Like, but y'all don't want to stay for 4 hour movies where they can explain the hell out of everything. Y'all don't like those. But if they cram as much as they can in 2 hours or an hour and a half, now you're still complaining. You got to pick a side. We got to pick a side because I watched the Snyder cut, and I loved it, and it didn't feel like 4 hours. There was a whole intermission in the movie. I was like, this 4 hours ain't nothing. I watch Lord of the Rings, the extended edition, every year, so this ain't nothing. But the pacing was fast, and I'm glad. I'm really glad that the pacing was fast. I'm glad that they didn't have to show them going into space and do a whole scene where they got their powers and everything like that. I'm so glad, and I'm so glad they didn't have to go through a whole thing about here's our villains, here's our antagonists, here's how they got their powers and all this stuff. This is a superhero movie. This is a superhero landscape. If you don't know by now that that's how it's gonna go, then you're living under a rock, unfortunately, I think, or you're not familiar with the genre. And that's okay too, but the pacing is fast. And what the setup is immediately for what is coming in the next year or two is amazing. And I'm excited for that. I'm excited with this is a first step not only for the Fantastic Four in the MCU, their whole family, not just the four, but what the seeds that were planted in this movie are great. The seeds that were planted in this movie are great. And again, they're remember when you go into this movie that they are taking from different aspects of the Fantastic Four. It's not going to be linear, like, oh, well, this happened in issue 225 and this happened in issue 226. It's not going to be linear like that. They're going to take different pieces based on what the grand scope that we don't know of the MCU is going. We don't know what the end result is. Kevin Feige knows what happens at the end of Avengers Doomsday. We don't. So we don't know what kind of curves and twists and turns that we're going to encounter. What we do know is that this is a superhero movie. If you saw certain movies, other comic book movies that came out this year, you know that we're going to see that the Fantastic Four in the MCU. And again, we've seen Reed Richards already in Multiverse of Madness. So if you know anything about the comic books, you know that if you see one Reed and this is our second read, then and we know that the multiverse is around, you know that that also plants the seed for something else that can be very, 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 very cool. And again, we already saw it in Ant-Man. I hope they bring back Jonathan Majors. This movie makes me wish that they would bring back Jonathan Majors, Kang's character, because what they're doing and what like Kang would be a very cool thwart to a lot of what's going on when it comes to multiversal stuff and time travel and quantum stuff, and he would be a good thwart to someone like Reed. And I can't wait to see when we eventually get to Reed interacting with the other big brains in the Marvel universe, like Doom and Iron Man, and Hank, and even Peter Parker. I can't wait to see, him and T'Challa. That should be an interesting thing once we actually get back those characters, because we are going to get a T'Challa again. We are going to get those characters back. So I'm waiting to see what that interaction is going to be with, because again, I love the Fan Four, and I can't wait to see how the rest of the MCU reacts to Galactus when they finally get to him and the Silver Surfer. I can't wait to see all those interactions, and that's exactly what this movie planted the seed for. It planted the seed for some amazing storylines that can come down. People just have to keep an open mind. Again, it's not going to be like issue 225. It's going to take different pieces. It's going to take and pluck different pieces and meld it together and make one thing that's very cool. And I think that's exactly what it was. I thought the acting was great, music was great, visuals were definitely. I mean, the visuals are really, really on point. I feel bad for anyone that doesn't see these movies in the big screen, because that's what they were shot for. And I'm always going to support comic book movies on the big screen, because I one day would like to see my name when I'm watching the name scroll up. I would love to see my name one day in the credits. So I'm going to continue to support that art form and that genre, because there were lots of artists. There's always artists, just so you know, there's always artists working on a film. Always. There are always artists. And if you watch the credits, you'll see all the artists that work. But there's people literally drawing these movies that we like. So, all in all, I would give the Fantastic Four First Steps an 8 out of 10. It wasn't perfect by any means. No movie really is per se, but it hit all of the notes that I needed it to hit. and I can't wait to see what sprouts from the seeds that were planted in the MCU. I would say go give it a look if if you're curious about it and everything like that. I mean, I cheered, I laughed, and I even cried a little bit. Yeah, I did because it's some emotional stuff in there. So, and that's what Marvel does well at. Marvel does well at pulling some heartstrings here and there and stuff like that. So, I can't wait to see what the general public has to say about it. The couple friends that have seen it so far, they've agreed with me when they said they liked it. So, I'm excited to see what you think about it. If you are seeing this and you've seen it, leave a comment down below, a non-spoiler comment, please, 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 please. We don't want to spoil anything for anybody. Some people are so easily spoiled, and I don't think there's tons of huge spoilers in here anyway, but I want to make sure that I don't ruin any kind of anything for anybody. I will say there's two after credit scenes. You really only need to stay for the first one. If I'm being honest, you really only need to stay for the first one, especially like if you saw Superman and you were pissed off at the second cutscene. You gonna be pissed off at the second cutscene if you sit through there expecting to see something like groundbreaking. The first one, stay for that one. The second one, after you see the first one, you can get up and leave. Trust me, you can get up and leave. I thought Fantastic Four First Steps was fantastic. With that being the case, it is your super sketch artist Antonio. As always, be good to yourself, be good to others. Go be